Update. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend after a prenatal pregnancy test confirmed I was not the father? Original post. I, 26 male, was in a relationship with my girlfriend, 26 female, for almost 6 years. We loved each other, but last year, my girlfriend and I decided to separate for a while to rekindle our relationship. We placed no restrictions on the separation, and we were free to do whatever we wanted and act as we were single. We took a break for a couple of months. The break was much needed to recharge our relationship. A week after getting back together, my girlfriend showed signs of pregnancy. She got an at-home pregnancy test done, which confirmed she was pregnant. We were both really overjoyed and happy. A few months later, I was planning on proposing to her and I had already bought the engagement ring. But I wanted to confirm first that I was the father before proposing to her and get the prenatal paternity test done. My girlfriend and I both wanted to do the NIPP test to confirm that I was the father. My girlfriend said she did sleep with someone during our break, so there was an off chance I wasn't the father. But we were both very confident that I would be the father. We received the results a couple of weeks later, and I wasn't the father. I was extremely sad and dejected, and my girlfriend was very sad too. It just hurt me a lot, and emotionally I couldn't process it. A week later, I broke up with my girlfriend. The breakup was extremely traumatizing for her and even for me. I told my girlfriend that I just did not want to be the baby's father and that if possible, she had to try and contact the bio father and let him know. I then helped her move back to her parents' home. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Separate to recharge the relationship is maybe the dumbest idea I've heard. Well, how'd that recharge go? She recharged from a different dongle. It appears she got a data transfer of 23 chromosomes too. To rekindle our relationship, we decided to break up. Where do all these freaking morons come from? Dumbest BS I've ever read. It ranks up there with, my partner wants to sleep with other people so it will spice up our sex life. I've seen people do this in my own life. It almost always ends up one of the parties sleeping with a bunch of people during the break, and the other person wasn't realizing that the reason for the break was so it wasn't technically cheating. Exactly. I have an exact same scenario where my buddy's girlfriend wanted to take a break. So they did, and it turns out she wanted guilt-free sex from another dude. He broke up with her shortly after that, LMAO. Now for the update. So just a quick update, as a few people in the comments were wondering as to whether my ex knew who the bio dad was. I called my ex last night and asked her if she had found a bio dad. She said no, that she just knew his first name but didn't have his number or any social media. She had met him at the bar. It was pretty much a one-night stand. I asked her how her parents are taking it, and unfortunately they aren't taking it too great, and they are being really critical of her. Her parents liked me, and they had no idea we even took a break. My ex was a bit of an emotional mess when I called her last night, and I really felt bad. I really wish that baby was mine. My ex and I really envisioned spending the rest of our life with each other, but it sadly isn't. I told my ex last night that was the last time I was going to call her and wished her well on her future. She was crying really badly at the end, and it pretty much broke my heart when I hung up. I too remember when I wanted to spend my life with someone. Oddly enough, taking a random no-rules break so I could get raw-dogged on one-night stand didn't quite seem to align with those life goals. Yeah, I really don't understand these stupid breaks. It's literally just a pass to bang other people. Just break up. It's for people in denial that the relationship is over. Opie said in his original post he was about to propose. If you had to take a break to rekindle the relationship, then marriage is a stupid idea. Worst idea is to try to save a relationship. Take a break, propose, have a baby. Dude, you gotta stop answering for anyone else's feelings besides your own. Because if your ex wanted to spend the rest of her life with you, guess what? She wouldn't have wanted a break in the first place. Don't project her feeling onto your partners, because it's obvious her feelings about you were completely different. Yeah, everyone gets one chance. There are no breaks, and everyone is at first responsible for themselves. You can't burn yourself to keep others warm. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to consider stopping our divorce after my ex admitted her psychic friend lied about me having an affair? I met my wife Rona when we were in college together. I made the obviously terrible assumption that the fact she was in post-secondary education meant she had a modicum of common sense. We started dating our senior year and after job hunting, settled on moving back to her hometown after graduating. We found an apartment and lived together for 2 years before getting married. All good so far. At our wedding, I met an old friend of hers, Anna. She offered to read my palm since she was part gypsy. Weird. I am in construction and I know a few people from that group and they call themselves Roma. Whatever. Anna only comes to town every once in a while. She lives in New York City, so she doesn't have time to visit since she has an exciting life there. She makes costumes for plays and cosplayers, so we see her maybe 4 times over the next 2 years. Last time she came was Labor Day last year, and that's when it got weird. All of a sudden, Rona starts acting oddly. She starts checking in on me at work, coming by when I'm working late, asking to use my phone because hers is almost out of power, that sort of thing. She finally comes out and accuses me of having an affair. I thought she was joking, so I laugh and say that I'm not. This sets her off like a Roman candle because Anna told her I would laugh it off when Rona came for the truth. I laughed because it was ridiculous. I barely had time for a relationship with my wife at my job. I am home all weekend long. When I go golfing, her brother is almost always either in my group or at the club. And most important of all, I love my wife. I wouldn't do anything to harm her, and yet she takes the word of Anna, the psychic seamstress, over mine. She asks me to leave our apartment. I say no, because I have nowhere else to go. So she leaves and moves back with her parents. They think she's nuts too. I spent the next few months working and trying to convince her that I'm not cheating, and that I want her to come home. I don't get invited to Thanksgiving because it would be awkward. I didn't even stick around for Christmas. I went home to see my family. They have been following this stupidity without commenting until then. At Christmas, they had an intervention. They said my wife was having a break from reality and that she wasn't coming out of it. My dad told me to give my head a shake, which he only does when I'm being monumentally stupid. When I got back, I went to a lawyer and started my divorce. That was in January. Finally, at the beginning of April, Rona calls me to talk. I say that we should talk through lawyers. She starts to cry and I agreed to meet her in public if she will allow me to record our conversation so I can give a copy to my lawyer. She eventually agreed. Turns out, her and her parents hired a private detective to find my affair. 6 months and a huge bill later, 0 evidence of an affair. She finally believes me and wants to come home. I tell her that our lease is up in July and I already found a job in Denver near my family. She says she would come with me, but I respectfully declined. I told her we just weren't right for each other. The truth is, I do not want to have my offspring share DNA with this dingbat. Anyway, I am moving ahead with my divorce. I am gutted that she took her friend's psychic vibration over mine. Her family has approached me several times. The last time, her dad offered to front us a 25% down payment on a house if I agreed to go to marriage counseling instead of just leaving. I politely declined. I cannot be bought. Rona is now depressed, but I see no way of ever trusting her again. She is young enough. She can marry again and wreck some other guy's life. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. This dingbat. I could not have described her better. Not the a-hole, of course. Reproducing with idiots needs to be an actual deal breaker for more people. It doesn't matter how hot they are, how good sex is, how perfect they would be if not for just this one thing, how lonely you are, etc. If you are going to have children, you don't get to pick a moron for a breeding partner. Child-free? Please take all the idiots you want. Enjoy your lives. Be awesome. Keep them from waving their hands in the air when getting on a helicopter. Pull the door they are pushing on in vain to open. Live your best lives. But if you are going to have kids, idiot needs to be on the list of deal breakers. Not a-hole for sure. Your comment reminds me of a story I was told in a college class. A very beautiful but dumb woman wanted to marry a very smart but ugly man in order to have very beautiful and smart children. The man just responded that they could end up with very ugly and dumb children. Not the a-hole. Once she took the word of a psychic over you, it was over. And the fact that she then convinced her parents to hire a PI to get info on your infidelities is just the icing on the top. And only the PI coming up empty brought about the realization that you were telling the truth. What else will she blindly believe when her psychic friend has another vision? Run, don't walk. I would imagine the parents hired the PI as a way to get her to come to her senses. Yep, they offered over $100,000 down payment for a place to try and get OP to give the marriage another shot. I'd bet good money that they suggested a PI and were happy to pay for it because they knew it would come up empty and push her back to OP. Next story. I told my parents that if they keep bringing up their daughter, they'll be dead to me. Did I go too far? My best friend was engaged to my parents' daughter, a girl who I once considered my sister. He loved her dearly. She was his first girlfriend and his first love. He was like a brother to me and a second son to my parents. They were happy when they started dating and even happier when they got engaged. The happiness only lasted a few months though, because his fiancée was having an affair with his brother. When she broke it off, his brother told him about everything. They were having an affair way before he even got engaged. My friend didn't take the news well. He was more hurt that his fiancée had an affair with his brother instead of a random stranger. He didn't have the best relationship with his brother anyway, and that was another betrayal. He couldn't cope well, and I guess this pushed him over the edge. I blame my sister and I blame his brother. His brother was rightfully disowned by his family, but my parents kept in contact with their daughter. I already hated my parents' daughter when I found out she cheated on my friend, but I absolutely hated her when he killed himself because of it. It has almost been a year since he died, and my parents keep trying to get me to talk to their daughter because she's not coping well and needs all of the love and support she can get. I told them that I don't care what she's going through and they could leave me out of it. They didn't take this well and started arguing with me. I tried to stay calm, but they kept insisting I talk to her. So I told them that if they keep trying to get me to talk to their daughter, they'll be dead to me too. I told them that I could care less what they do with her, but don't bring her garbage to me, and I left it at that. This caused my parents to cry, and my mom told me that she was trying to get the family back together and that my sister made a mistake. But I can't fault her for my friend dying because of it. Is she really remorseful? In other words, are the brother and her still together? No, they aren't together anymore. She is remorseful, I guess, but the person she owes forgiveness to is dead, so too late. She wasn't remorseful when she lied to her fiancé for months. She wasn't remorseful to accept his proposal, knowing full well she was already cheating then. She wasn't remorseful in picking the single most hurtful person to cheat on her ex with. She wasn't remorseful in dumping him despite her being in the wrong. For tens of thousands of moments, she gleefully lied to his face, then made plans to continue something she knew was inhumanly hurtful to him. She was so selfish that she couldn't even be bothered to break up back when the affair first started, and instead had to string both men along. Even if she feels sorry now, the crocodile tears are only for herself. She deserves zero empathy, and she has already gotten so much more from your parents than she showed the innocent dead man. She does not deserve an ounce more civility from you or anyone else. Cheaters only tend to be remorseful when they face consequences. They don't really regret what they did, they regret the fact that they have to face what they did to everyone around them. Your sister didn't make a mistake, she made a choice, and that choice came with consequences, not the a-hole. She didn't make a single mistake or a single choice. It was a series of very bad choices that she could have stopped at any time, the biggest one being she accepted his proposal. Last story. Am I the a-hole for demanding my husband returns my engagement ring to the store because he is making me pay for it through our joint account? My husband, 30 male, and I, 28 female, have been married for just under 3 months and have been having a huge argument about my engagement ring. We got married 1 month into him proposing to me. It wasn't a fancy wedding, and we had our honeymoon right after we signed the papers at the courthouse. He gave me a diamond engagement ring that's close to $8,000, a 2-carat lab diamond. He didn't have funds available readily as we are saving for a home, so he put this ring on a payment plan. I found out after we married and merged our finances that he has been withdrawing funds from our joint account to finance this ring. We make roughly the same. I was just taken aback and honestly put off by the fact he is making me pay for a gift he gave to me. We have been having some arguments lately, and he feels that ring is a wedding expense, and it's only fair that I contribute towards it too, and that as a woman of this day, I shouldn't hesitate to be an equal partner. I called BS and shared my thoughts on this whole thing. First, you don't make the recipient of a gift pay for the damned gift. An engagement ring is considered a gift in most modern societies even today, and I don't care if you disagree with that. It's just what the cultural expectations are, and we never discussed if he had any issues with that. Maybe if he was an adult enough, I would have had a discussion about how it makes him feel and see if his values about tradition align with mine. Second, I've intentionally partially paid for 2 installments now, which makes me part owner of the ring. If I knew my husband was going to be making me pay for the ring, I wouldn't have agreed to buy it. Mutual consent is essential when a couple is deciding to invest in an asset. Owning a house or a car jointly requires 2 yeses, and I wouldn't certainly have said yes to jointly owning a ring he was supposed to give to me as a gift. So I can retroactively decide now I never wanted to own it, and have been demanding that my husband returns the ring to the store if paying for the ring hurts his pocket so much. Clarification, because I anticipate a lot of people might wonder. I've always wanted a nice ring, and I'm not going to apologize about it since we never had a real wedding party, and I knew I deserved a quality piece symbolizing our love. However, my then fiancé also knew about the expectation I had of him, and was upfront about things from the get-go. He could have discussed things with me like I mentioned earlier, and we could have seen if we were truly compatible like that. What I didn't know was that he was plotting to get even with me by taking out a payment plan and using our funds to finance it. This caused him to flare up, and he berated me for being sexist towards him. I put my foot down, not because I can't afford it or I refuse to financially contribute or give my husband a nice gift, but my husband's sheer stubbornness and tackiness about wanting me to pay is what ticks me off. I don't mind splurging for him, but this whole situation has left a very bad taste in my mouth. He expects me to apologize to him because I called his actions tacky and decisions scammy and in bad faith. Am I the a-hole? Nobody pointing out $8K for a 2-carat lab-grown diamond is insanely expensive? My first thought too. Do you guys have separate bank accounts and just a joint account, or just a joint account? Because if you only have the joint account, you are technically gonna be partially paying for every gift you receive. The way it reads is that they have just a joint, which is how I arrived at she's the a-hole. How does she think her gifts will get paid if they share an account? Like he's still putting his money in the account. This is also weird to me, because I've been married for 17 years, and while a purchase this high would require talking, I feel like OP's husband probably took her letting him know she is worth the expensive ring, and it was what she wanted, so he got the ring. He probably never factored in paying for it from the joint account would make her flip her lid. Yes, I could maybe see her side of things if she wasn't so, I deserve and I won't settle. But seeing all that immediately made my eye twitch. This guy is never going to win. If he buys her an expensive gift, he will be called cheap and lazy. If he finances a nice gift, he will be called a liar and a thief. He just needs to run away. Relationship advice. Update. My 48 female daughter, 25 female, slept with elder daughter's 27 female husband and is now facing harsh treatment. Original story. About 3 years ago, me and my husband, 53 male, had found out that my daughter Donna had an affair with our older daughter's, Marina's, husband, Leonard. It was especially infuriating because Marina had been violated a couple weeks prior. Marina was in a mess due to her ordeal, and after she found out that her husband had been messing with her sister, didn't help with her mental health. In short, she was constantly self-harming and would have panic attacks and or start crying randomly. What made it worse was that Marina kept blaming herself for what happened to her and her husband's infidelity. We've put her in therapy, and she's been doing a lot better, thank God. On the other hand, when I went to confront Dawn about this mess, she just said that she was attending to Marina's husband because she was refusing intimacy in a really condescending way. I was so mad that I wanted to put my hands on her. How could she say that after such a horrible thing happened? I straight up told her that until Marina's comfortable enough, she shouldn't contact me. She started screaming, but I was over it. After Marina and Leonard divorced, him and Donna ended up engaged. My son Josiah told me this and wanted me and my husband to come to the wedding/engagement party. I was appalled that she had the audacity to ask me that kind of question, and I declined. I told her that I loved her, but I simply cannot be with her and give her my blessings as she said horrible things and hasn't apologized. told her and Leonard that my husband was on the same boat, and warned her that if Leonard cheated with her, then it won't be out of the question that he will cheat on her. Fast forward to the present. Donna was banging on my door pleading for me to let her in. She had a tear-streamed face holding a baby and a toddler, so I let her in. She was crying while saying how Leonard had been emotionally and verbally mistreating her, and also had a side family. She didn't want to stay in the house with him any longer and wants out. This is a hard situation for me, as both daughters aren't doing so well. But as much as I hate to say it, one brought it on herself. Can anyone give help in such a situation? Please help me. Now for the top advice before reading the update. If Marina lives with you, Donna can't. Full stop. Yes, Donna is in a bad situation now, but that doesn't change the fact that she cheerfully hurt her sister a few years ago without apologizing. You can't even let Donna stay with you if she apologizes at this point, because you wouldn't be able to trust that apology was sincere. Help her contact your nearest women's shelter/organization and a divorce lawyer. If you can help her out a bit more, then you can offer to get her a hotel room for a month or so. But she has to get her own bank account and job, if she doesn't have them already, to support herself and her kids. Once you've done that, do let Marina know that you're helping Donna out, but not having her live with you. You don't want to blindside Marina if she runs into Donna. If Marina says, "Why did you send her to a shelter/hotel?" stick her in the spare room, without any prompting or requests from you or Donna, then you can consider letting her stay for a bit. If you want to live with Donna and her kids, it's okay for you to decide that you don't want them in your house under any circumstances. The without any prompting or requests from you here is really important. Marina's dealt a lot with misguided guilt. She doesn't need to be put in a hard position of deciding whether her sister is going to get help or not from the family. She might feel the need to say yes, even if she doesn't want to. And if she says no when asked, then Donna could use that as a weapon against her and hurt her emotionally. Your daughter is facing the consequences, and if you let her stay, you will lose the innocent victim daughter. Choose wisely. Exactly. Marina has been through enough. Take in the kids or Donna can go to a shelter. While I am still upset about what Donna has put Marina into, I don't want to separate her from the kids yet. And I still want to be grandparent. That being said, I don't want Marina to have a relapse. Another thing is Marina really wanted kids, and I'm not sure how she will react seeing her nephews. While I don't feel equipped to give you any advice on this, I do want to say I'm sorry that you're in this position at all. It must be awful. I hope it works out, and you can come to a solution. I can't even begin to imagine how hard this situation must be for basically everyone in the story. How does your husband and Marina feel about her coming back? I think this is one of those situations that no one on the internet can answer. Good luck, Opie. My husband is at loss as well. I really do love Donna, and I hate seeing her like this. However, I don't want to do anything that may hurt Marina in any way, shape, or form because of the hurt her sister put her into. But Donna has innocent kids that didn't do anything, and I still want to be grandparent to them. And now for the update. Thank you for the kind advice everyone has given me so far. It means a lot. I haven't been able to post lately because of everything that has been happening with my two girls. So here's an update for those who have asked. I followed your advice and sat Marina down and talked about Donna's request and the possibility of taking her in, or at the very least her children. Marina looked like she was going to burst into tears and cried, saying we were choosing to help Donna over her. I realized that I was so caught up in having my happy family and being a grandparent that I was neglecting the person who was hurting the most in this situation. Me and my husband apologized for overlooking Marina's feelings and assured her that Donna was not going to be staying with us. Our relationship has been strained a bit, and I admit I was rather selfish, and looking at everything with rose-tinted glasses is hurting me and my daughter's relationship. Since Donna nor her kids would be staying with us, I phoned my relatives to see if anyone would take her in. None of them would, because they are disgusted by how Donna treated Marina during a traumatic event. Most of them were angry at me for suggesting such a thing after what happened, and told me that this was retribution for her actions. I then phoned Donna telling her that while I care about her, she cannot stay at my place because I need to tend to Marina's needs, and to ensure her mental health doesn't get any worse. My husband and I are going to find her a one-bedroom, one-bathroom apartment, but she will need to work for the rent, /food, /utilities, etc., and we have a divorce lawyer just in case. Donna asked why she just can't stay at my place, and I told her that staying with us will just cause Marina unnecessary stress and could increase her mental health issues. I also told her that she has to act like an adult and get a job. Donna said that she hasn't had a job in years, and she'll need somewhere to get back on her feet rent-free. I told her that I could pay for the first month's rent, but I will not be taking her in. She tried to switch gears and use her kids, but my husband said that he can pay for the daycare until she gets a job. She started to scream at us and say some very nasty words to not only us, but Marina. Donna said that Marina needs to get over herself, and she has more needs than Marina. My husband snapped and screamed at her back, saying that if she had helped her sister instead of sleeping with her husband, this wouldn't have happened, and she has no one to blame but herself. I honestly don't know where I went wrong in raising Donna for her to act and say words like this. It's very disappointing. It sounds like Donna is way overdue for a reality check, daughter or not. Helping her with the apartment and daycare until she gets a job is the best way to help her be more independent, as it sounds like she's codependent to some degree. One thing is that you 100% need to give her a deadline on getting a job, so that she doesn't take advantage of the help. Yes, OP pays the landlord directly for 1 month's rent, and pays the daycare directly for 1 month's childcare. Then make it clear to Donna that that's all the help she's getting. Yeah, and I only suggest that to OP because of the grandchild. Otherwise, she does not deserve any help from OP or anyone. Donna did a horrible thing, and continues to do horrible things by using them for money, and has zero remorse. Honestly, OP would probably be doing her more of a service by letting her deal with her own mess, so that she can learn the consequences of her actions. Holy hell, is Donna entitled. She really sounds like a human piece of garbage. So, she treats everyone like dirt, and still expects people to bend over backwards to take care of her? Nice. If it wasn't for the grandkids, I would say cut her out of your life and face the consequences of her actions. Even then, you could offer to take the grandkids in, but make her be on her own. Yep, but even after her horrible response in the end, they will be manipulated by her having kids, and still will be subsidizing Donna's existence probably for way longer than just 1 month. The fact that OP even entertained the idea of letting Donna crash Marina's space tells me Donna is going to have them by the strings for quite a while. To the people who are defending Donna in the previous post and this one, unclench your a-hole so you can breathe some fresh air amid the BS. I honestly don't know where I went wrong in raising Donna. It could be favoritism towards Donna that shaped her entitlement. You don't see because sometimes that rose-tinted view is really tinted. Edited to add. The poster is saying Marina needs to get over it because it's been 3 years. You'd benefit from some life experience. Golden Child Syndrome. Thank God her husband and relatives spoke up on Marina's behalf, because OP certainly was ignoring all of us who said to cut her off. Literally, my comment on her last update was like, Marina is going to be upset and not trust you if you even suggest Donna moving in. What does she do? Suggest this woman move back in. OP needs to look in the mirror to see where she went wrong. Good lord. Now for the last story. My mother wants me and my siblings to forgive our older brother for stealing our other brother's fiancée. My family consists of my oldest brother, Mike, 29, my older sister Anne, 26, my other brother Luke, 25, and me as the youngest, 22 female. Growing up, our parents always taught us to stand together, and that when they were dead and gone, we would only have each other. If one person snitched on a sibling, they'd punish both siblings, the troublemaker and the tattletale. This made us bond really closely, and we heavily valued loyalty. A few years ago, Luke began dating this girl who seemed like a soulmate. They seemed like they'd known each other for years, and it was so cute. He proposed to her and we were all excited because he was gonna be the first sibling to get married. About a year into the proposal, Luke confided in me, we'd always been closest to each other than the other siblings, that Mike and his fiancée's relationship seemed a little too close. He felt awful that he didn't trust her, and tried his best to deny that his brother would betray him like that. After I mentioned it, Whenever I'd bring her around the family, I began noticing the behaviors. The flirtatious side-eyeing, the little more than friendly banter, and even the fact that their hugs seemed to be very intimate. I tried to chalk it up as me being paranoid and seeing it only because it was mentioned. Well, things finally hit the fan when she dumped Luke and confessed her love for Mike, and admitted that she'd been cheating on him and that they were in love. She moved out of his house and moved in with Mike. This was about a year and a half ago, and they are now engaged. The night everything happened, Luke showed up to my house completely destroyed. He'd been bawling his eyes out. He said some pretty dark things. How he had no purpose, how he'd never live up to Mike, and how the world would go on without him, etc. To add some context, Mike was the cliché jock older brother. Athlete, good-looking, always had girls, and got good grades. Luke always felt like he had to compete with him to get the same attention. Anne and I were girls, so we received our own separate attention. He works out a lot and is in great shape, is tall, and works very hard to subconsciously beat him. To see this big, tough guy break down like that broke my heart, and we cried together and talked a lot. We also called Anne over, and she made his favorite meal for him while in complete shock. The next morning, while Luke was still asleep, Anne and I drove over to Mike's house and absolutely ripped into him. We both had our choice words and left before he could even say anything. Our parents are divorced now, and our dad hasn't been in contact with Mike. He's a very traditional man and puts emphasis on loyalty and brotherly love. He was absolutely furious, and apparently he called Mike and screamed at him. Neither me nor my father and siblings have been in contact with Mike. Luke has declined any of Mike's attempts to apologize and reconcile. Our mother, though, has forgiven him due to him being mama's boy and also being the firstborn son. She actively hangs out with him and urges me and Anne to forgive him and start a relationship with them, which we adamantly refuse. She's also attempted to trick Luke into seeing Mike. This has also hurt Luke, and he no longer contacts our mom, to her dismay. Now, Mike and Luke's ex are engaged and the wedding is set. He's invited all of his siblings and our dad, but we all refuse. Our mom is begging us to be there for him, and in the nicest way possible, try to tell us to get Luke to get over it. She misses her family, and she wants things to normal. When she told Anne that, Anne told her that Mike and his new wife-to-be can be her new happy family. Am I wrong for still being angry at Mike? Is it any of my business? Sometimes I feel like it isn't, but seeing Luke absolutely broken has burned into my brain, and any thoughts of Mike and his soon-to-be wife fills me with anger. Now for the top comments. No, you are fantastic for sticking by your brother. What your other brother did is basically one of the worst things you can do to a sibling, on top of him always having had to compete with his older brother already. Thank you so much for sticking by your brother. You, your sister, and father are fantastic for that. Too many times other family members just forgive and forget, and then get mad at the sibling who is harmed by the actions. I don't have words for the heartbreak that Luke must feel from all this. The deep yawning pit that opened up in his chest when his brother and fiancé did that to him. And again, every time his mother chooses Mike. He must hurt so badly. And make no mistake, what Mike did is unforgivable. Anyone who would try to say any different about this situation is sending a clear signal to Luke how little they value him. I'm so happy for Luke to have at least some family, his sisters and his father, who still love and care for him. If it were me, and my family all got buddy-buddy with Mike and my ex, and try to get me to forgive and be one big happy family again, I think I would cut ties with a lot of them. Move states away, act like I don't have a family, burn bridges, and never talk to them again. If I didn't add myself first. And honestly, if I had to choose a brother and the choice was between Luke and Mike, it's no contest. Mike has shown that he would stab me in the back if he would gain something he wants by doing so, and he would later tell me to get over it. Who would want that in their life? No one owes Mike a happy wedding day. Let Mike enjoy his new family with the girl and her relatives, because he turned his back on the family that raised him the day he chose the girl over his brother. Screw that. Don't give your loyalty to someone that isn't capable of giving it in return. It's one thing if Luke's fiancée left him and later got together with Mike, but she was cheating on him while they were still together. Mike knew this was a massive betrayal and didn't care. He chose himself over the rest of the family. Frankly, by trying to force the family back together, your mother is betraying the family as well. putting her own desire to have a happy family over anyone else's feelings. Mike earned his way out of your life. If you let him back in, the only lesson he'll learn is that loyalty is a one-way street that requires nothing of him. Let your mother know that while you might not resent her for keeping contact with Mike, I don't know if you would or not, but I would, she will absolutely lose the rest of you if she keeps trying to get you all to sweep it under the rug. If I were in your shoes, the next time I talked to Mike would be at someone's funeral, and I would never say a single word to his new girl ever again. I don't particularly resent her for forgiving him. She's his mother, carried him for 9 months and birthed him, so I don't see it as weird for her to forgive him. But I do agree it's incredibly crappy to try to make us forgive him and try to get Luke to talk to him when he's not ready. Wow. Just wow. Fiancé equals horrible human being. Mike equals terrible brother. Mom? What the hell is wrong with this woman? You, your sister, and your dad, now that's family loyalty. And how families should treat each other. Keep doing exactly what you're doing, and don't give the selfish, cruel, entitled people an inch. Think about how they'd treat you given the same circumstances. Would you want them to continue to stand by you? Of course you would. Keep doing what you're doing because you have it right. Thank God he has you guys. Cut them out. None of them value loyalty and family. Your family is your dad, Anne and Luke. If you can't trust your family, then who can you rely on? This is what I try to tell my mom. Especially since, this is what they taught us. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling the cops after my half-brother took my car while I was having dinner with family? I, 23 female, have always been civil with my 19 male half-brother. We were close as kids, but he started to have an attitude at 13. And pretty much stopped being nice and started messing with my things, / making fun of me and doing pranks to annoy me, / privacy was gone with him coming into my room and taking my things. Whenever I complained, my stepmom would normalize his behavior and make excuses. My dad never really grounded him and thought that talking to him will get him to behave better. I'm currently in college. I live in a rented apartment and have a car to help me get to the university or other places. The car isn't expensive or fancy at all. I saved up for it 2 years ago. I decided to have Christmas dinner with my family. It's the perfect opportunity to be with my family since I haven't seen my dad in a while. I arrived at my dad's house and left my purse and my keys on the kitchen island after my stepmom told me to help with dinner. My half-brother started talking about my car in the kitchen while my stepmom was listening and asked if he could take it for a couple of hours to hang out with friends. I politely told him no. He threw a fit and brought up how I needed to relax and not worry. But my answer was still the same. While we were sitting at the dinner table, my half-brother got up, washed his hands, and I thought he went outside. I got busy talking to my dad, and after I got up to wash my hands, I noticed my car keys weren't there. I went outside to ask him, and neither he nor my car were there. I lost it. I started calling his phone, but he hung up on me several times. I was furious. I told my dad I'd call the police if he didn't come back with the car. My stepmom jumped to defend him and said I was being unreasonable to call the police. I called him one last time, then I called the police. My stepmom freaked out when my half-brother got picked up by the police. She told me to go explain the situation to the authorities, otherwise he'd spend the night in jail. But I refused, especially since I still hadn't got my car back. Stepmom yelled that I ruined dinner and that it was no big deal. He was going to return it after borrowing it from me. But he didn't really borrow it, and she heard me say no. I don't know what she told the police, but I didn't give permission to use the car. My stepmom's side of family are mad at me for doing this to my brother, and hinted that I don't consider him family. My dad's side of family sided with me, saying he deserved it. My dad said I overreacted, and I shouldn't have called the police when he disappeared for 4 hours. Edit. He did not borrow it, but my stepmom said I let him borrow it, which is not true. Edit, just to clarify. I talked to the police about what happened, and I learned later that my stepmom said that her son was allowed to borrow it, and that it was a misunderstanding. I wasn't going to let her continue to lie, but my dad told me to back off and let it go. This really upset me. My half-brother wasn't even berated the way I was by the family. Not a-hole. He borrowed your car. You borrowed his free time for the night. Fair trade. Exactly. I'm pretty much certain that he did not borrow it. For her to lie and say I let him borrow it and only call the cops because he wasn't picking up the phone isn't acceptable. She bad-mouthed me to her entire family and they all berated me based on the story she told. See, I'm the type of person who, if I ever posted a question here, knows I would be the a-hole, and I'm okay with that. So take anything I say with a grain of salt. I would be vindictive and post a meme somewhere that the family will see it, that basically followed the theme of, what the rest of the world calls stealing, my family calls borrowing. Make it pretty clear what actually happened. Jeez. Not the a-hole at all. How can anyone consider it an overreaction? He literally stole your car after you told him you didn't want him to use it. Why didn't your parent/step-parent offer to let him use their car? This should be a moment to show him about responsibility and accountability, not to blame you for standing your ground. Your dad is really letting you down. Simply ask how it'd feel in a similar situation. My stepmom thought I ruined the night and overreacted because he just borrowed a car from me, even though I told him no right in front of her. My dad is indeed letting me down by how he reacted in this situation. All I wanted was to have a peaceful dinner with family, but my half-brother was being stubborn. Not the a-hole. He broke the law and got his karma. What would have happened if he got pulled over? What would have happened if he was speeding and caused a crash? He now has a criminal record that he earned himself. If anything, it's his parents' fault for not raising him to respect you and your boundaries. There's no talking to him, so he behaves better in that situation. Stand your ground on this, OP, and if it's such an issue for your father, then make it such an issue for you. Good luck. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for pressing charges against a family member? So, I went over to my aunt's house on Christmas Eve because she told me she had a gift for me. I'm pretty estranged from my family, but stopped over to say hello anyways and accept the gift. She urged me to stay for coffee and talk with her. My 18-year-old cousin was also there. Well, we get to drinking coffee. And of course, coffee makes me pee, so I excused myself to the bathroom and my dumb self leaves my purse on the kitchen counter. I hear someone go outside, and then some keys jangling and zippers opening from the kitchen, but I think nothing of it. I thank my aunt and leave. On Christmas morning, I got a fraud alert text from my credit card user that someone made around $800 worth of purchases. Of course, I text back, no, this wasn't me, and begin panicking and trying to retrace my steps. I realized that I've been working from home for the last several weeks, and the only time I actually went out anywhere was to my aunt's house the other day. I look up where the transactions were coming from, and had a hunch that it was my cousin who had taken copies of my card while I was in the bathroom at her house. Well, I called the cops, and now she's in a lot of trouble. I phoned my aunt and told her what had happened, and she didn't believe me until my cousin freaking admitted to doing it and began crying and hyperventilating that she'd pay me back as soon as she'd get a job. I began screaming at her that what she did was a federal crime and that she's going to prison. And why the hell did she do what she did, thinking she wouldn't get caught? She hung up after that and never knew what my aunt's initial reaction was after my cousin admitted to doing it. Until this morning. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb for the night and received over 40 calls and text messages from my aunt, uncle, and cousin, pleading me to drop the charges because I'll ruin my cousin's life and she realizes what she did was wrong. I texted back to my aunt, I don't care if it ruins her life. She literally committed credit card fraud and deserves to be punished. She's 18 now, she's an adult. Aunt, you are a very cold and rude person. No wonder your parents want nothing to do with you. You don't even want to take care of them. Your cousin said she was sorry, and she's applying for jobs, and we can figure something out for her to pay you on an installment plan. Me, I'll consider dropping charges if you pay the $800 to me in full by Friday. And, no, that's not how that works. Me, okay, well then I'm not dropping the charges. And, okay, well then you don't have a family anymore. I want you to return the gift I got for you. And I'm calling your parents to tell them what happened. Lol, okay, call my parents. I'm 27. Am I the a-hole for pressing charges against my cousin and then refusing to consider dropping them when my aunt wouldn't compromise? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They literally stole from you. Actions have consequences. Are you on the hook for that money, or did the card company let it go? Aunt, no, that's not how that works. OP, tell that to the judge. Aunt, surprised Pikachu. Not the a-hole, you did everything right. Your family, on the other hand, all of them suck here. If it was a total stranger, no one would be upset at you for calling the cops. No one. Lesson learned for your cousin, don't be a thief. If you back down, they will do it again. 100% it isn't the first time they did it either. Families who downplay, try to find ways for the family members to weasel out of repercussions are enablers. Your cousin will never learn if they don't have consequences for their actions. Your aunt raised a terrible child, but she's now an adult and 100% knew it was wrong. Your aunt is the a-hole along with your uncle and cousin, are manipulators, enablers, and gigantic a-holes. You are better off without those people for family. Run, hun, run. They're not family. You are 100% in the right. Hold your head high. You were robbed. You are the victim here. Don't let them talk you out of this. And hon, dear God, I'm so sorry that your own family's doing this to you. You don't deserve this at all, especially at Christmas time. Maybe I'm being cynical here, but OP, not the a-hole, is largely estranged from their family. And then out of the blue, Auntie calls them with a gift. And during that time, cousin commits the crime. Aunt sounds more than an enabler. She sounds complicit to me. On to the next story. Am I the a-hole for not reimbursing my brother for an air mattress? This happened around Thanksgiving, but I'm still getting crap about it from my family. I'm a 27-year-old woman who lives in a one-bedroom apartment by myself. My brother, 24, and his significant other, 22, have lived on the opposite side of the country, US, for a few years, and decided to fly over to see their respective families, both of whom live around the same area. Neither my brother nor his girlfriend felt comfortable staying with their parents due to COVID, so I offered them my apartment while I stayed with my significant other for the week. Everyone was happy with this arrangement. We never talked about it specifically before they arrived, so I just assumed that they would sleep in my queen-sized bed. I have a couple of couches in the living area, and while they are comfortable enough, they aren't designed to be sofa beds. The morning they arrived, I cleaned the apartment and changed the bedding. When they got to my apartment, my brother asked where they should sleep, and I indicated a bed. He sort of laughed at first, and then realized I was serious and got really angry. His girlfriend didn't say much, but looked mortified. My brother kept saying that there was no way they were sleeping in my bed, and it was disgusting for me to offer. I told him that everything was clean, and reminded him that they'd have the apartment to themselves. He just kept saying he couldn't believe it, and finally snapped that they'd have to make do with the couch. I left quickly without further discussion because I was confused and pretty upset. That night, my brother called me and said the couches were impossible to sleep on. He said that he and his girlfriend needed to purchase an air mattress and requested that I reimburse him the $55 they paid for it. By now, I was really pissed off and refused. I asked him again why they didn't just take the bed, and he said that, if I really had to ask, I have major issues. I said that I didn't care what they did or did not do in bed. We are all adults and should act accordingly. He called me disgusting again and hung up. My parents found out and agreed that I should pay for the air mattress because I wasn't adequately prepared for their arrival. My mother specifically keeps insinuating that what I did was gross and unfair, and I should have known better. My brother has let it be known that our relationship won't go back to normal until I apologize and reimburse him and his girlfriend. I know my family can be kind of weird and uptight, so I asked my significant other and some friends for their perspective. My boyfriend says he can see both sides, and my friends are basically siding with my parents and brother, saying that it would be inappropriate for me to sleep in the same bed that my brother and his girlfriend previously shared. Edit. A lot of people are asking if we belong to some weird culture where siblings aren't able to share beds. We do not, and my family has never been religious anyway, but as I stated in my post, they are really uptight. Like, we learned about the birds and bees, but sex was always presented as something unpleasant and nasty. My brother and I never discussed each other's sexuality/intimate lives, which in my opinion is normal. But it's pretty clear he has some major hang-ups. My boyfriend is a lot more open about the topic, but he's also very attuned to when people feel uncomfortable, and says that even though he disagrees with their reasoning, he can understand why they might not want to sleep in my bed. He thinks I should just pay the $55 to keep the peace. My friends, no idea. Lol. 100% not day haul. Have they ever slept in a hotel? Because I guarantee that bed is a hell of a lot more gross than yours. No. See, it's okay if strangers have boinked in the bed they're sleeping in, but if it's his sister, then that's practically incest, not day haul. What on earth? Tell him he can go spend $55 a night on a freaking hotel next time. Not day haul. Where he can sleep on an untouched, virgin mattress instead of Opie's filthy, used one. Jesus Christ, what a ridiculous man. Not day haul. It's ridiculous on your brother's part. They could have stayed in a hotel. Or are hotels also off limits for them because stuff could have occurred on those beds before them? Yes, I would agree that hotel beds have seen their share of action. But if they wouldn't stay in a hotel either, for the same reason, that would pretty much prove that the problem is theirs and they have hang-ups. They were planning to pay for a hotel until I offered my apartment. They've definitely stayed in hotels before. Now, for the last story, am I the a-hole for being a Karen by arguing a store's ID policy? I, a 41-year-old man, went grocery shopping with my daughter, 14, yesterday. This was mainly to pick up food, but I also wanted to pick up some spirits and champagne for New Year's Eve. At the checkout, they asked for ID. This was odd because they have a challenge 25 policy in the UK, and I look far older than 25. As I got my license out, the checkout assistant said, "Not your ID, sir, but hers," in reference to my daughter. I was surprised and said she's 14. I'm her dad, and this is just family shopping. Still, the checkout person refused to make the sale because my daughter was underage. At this point, I asked to speak to her manager because I figured she might be new and probably erring on the side of caution. She looked very young herself, probably still in school, so I figured she didn't want to take any risks, but a manager would probably know better. However, even her supervisor reiterated they couldn't sell me the alcohol without my daughter having proof of being over 18. I asked how would she have proof? She's 14 and I'm her father. I also said how this has never been a problem before, at this store or any other. Hell, I'd come to the same supermarkets with my daughter and wife and bought beer or wine before without being asked for everyone's ID. At this point, the manager looked at my things and also said he wouldn't be able to scan the scissors as they were also an age-restricted item. I won't lie, this pissed me right off. So I said to the manager, "Your policy is insane and lacks any common sense, and this store is a joke." I walked off with my daughter, and when I got home, I wrote an email to their head office because I genuinely do think that it's a silly policy. Throughout all this, my daughter is mortified, saying that I shouldn't have asked for the manager, that the girl was only doing her job. She also said that it was a policy, so I was in the wrong. I disagree, and think some degree of common sense should be used in these situations. Now for some top comments. Not at a-hole, that's insane. I worked at a Tesco when I was at uni and challenge 25 was always for individuals, or a group of people who looked 25 or under, in which case you had to ID every member of the group to make sure they were older than 18. We were always told to show discretion when it was a parent and child, or a family, because of course many parents will buy alcohol for their own personal use while having their underage children with them in the store. That shop's policy is very silly indeed. This policy is absolutely nonsense. Many parents take their kids to shop to help with the shopping, and refusing to sell alcoholic products to an adult because of their child is so? I get that some teenagers take 18+ friends with them just so they can get the alcohol with no trouble, but this policy doesn't seem to be helping with this type of case at all. Not a-hole. That's a dramatic misinterpretation of store policy, and adding in the scissors was just to mess with you because you complained. I'd actually address this with corporate. The cashier's position may have been reasonable, in that if they didn't completely understand the policy, they were trying to err on the side of keeping their job. But the manager absolutely should know better, and if they don't, they need to be educated. Not selling the scissors make this a power move on their behalf. Manager trying to feel like he's got big boy shoes on and can control people. What a ridiculous rule. I sincerely hope head office comes back with a proper apology. Otherwise, please name and shame the store. not the a-hole. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you with the next one. Stay safe. This is an update to the story posted a few days back about the sister who was a proud mistress and home wrecker. Let's read the update. I am not going to tell my sister to get rid of the baby. That's not my place, and I would never suggest such a thing. Also, I am not going to install tracking software on her phone or demand access to all her devices. That's invasive and wrong. I've been thinking a lot, and while I can't say that I don't love my sister, it's very hard to feel that love right now. I don't know who she is anymore. It's not just that she lied to me, it's what she did, and how convinced she is that she was justified because they were in love. She's brought chaos into my home that I opened up to her. I'm deeply disappointed in her, and I just don't like her at the moment. I'm letting her stay with me because I don't want her to become dependent on him. I don't think he's a good man either, and as a social worker, I've seen these scenarios too many times. My sister is already deluded. I don't need to open the door to a dependency that's also financial. Now on to the update. I haven't been punishing my sister, but I've been treating her like a roommate. This is driving her crazy. She's begging me to go back to how things were before, but I can't. I told her that I need time and that things can't just return to normal overnight. She tried to explain how it all happened. She admitted that she always knew he was married, but believed she could tell how unhappy he was and felt he deserved to be happy. They met at a bar a few weeks after his son's accident. He told her that his wife hadn't touched him since it happened and that he was about to explode. I asked her why she would involve herself with a married man, knowing the hurt it would cause. She said she wanted to be a wife and a good mom, and that included his kids. She had hoped he would divorce his wife so they could all move on and finally be happy together. I just stared at her, unable to comprehend how she could rationalize her actions. A few days later, he appeared at our house, claiming he had left his wife and wanted to be with my sister. I told him to leave immediately or I would call the police. My sister was furious with me, accusing me of ruining her chance at happiness. I made it clear to her, if it comes over again, I will evict her. She's free to date anyone she wants, but not under my roof. I also told her that if she plans to have him around after the baby is born, she'll need to find her own place. Word has gotten around our community about the affair. While we were grocery shopping, a woman even spat on my sister. Many of her friends have cut ties with her, calling her a home wrecker. Some are married themselves and don't want her near their husbands. I haven't said I told you so even once. We unexpectedly ran into his wife at a local cafe. My sister wanted to apologize and suggested that maybe they could all have a good relationship for the sake of the kids. The wife laughed coldly and said, "You made your choices. Now live with them. Don't expect me to make this easier for you." My sister is devastated and has been lying in bed ever since. I'm taking care of her physical needs, making sure she eats, stays hydrated, and attends her prenatal appointments. But I can't bring myself to comfort her emotionally. I just don't have it in me right now. Now for the top comments. Why wouldn't he just call or text her and tell her to meet him? Makes absolutely no sense. I honestly think his wife threw him out, and he was scoping out if he could stay with her. But that's just my theory. They met at a bar a few weeks after his son's accident. He told her that his wife hadn't touched him since it happened and that he was about to explode. Wow, what a catch. Any parent will know the trauma of having to go without sex after one of your kids has been seriously injured. Imagine getting successfully rizzed up by "I'm about to explode." LMAO. You're not the a-hole for feeling hurt and setting boundaries. Your sister made her choices, and now she has to face the consequences. Exactly. She made her choices, and OP don't owe her emotional support right now. And the choice she made has destroyed lives. She deserves what she faces, as does that trash husband. To be honest, OP is better than I would be, letting a cheater with no remorse stay with her. But maybe it will help the sister stay away from that trash husband. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister I won't be her surrogate? I, 30 female, have an identical twin sister. We'll call her Stacy for the sake of the story. Our mother unfortunately passed in child labor and we were raised by our father. Stacy has been married to Jeff for 8 years. I have been in a relationship with Mike for 3 years now. One thing I've always known about my sister is that she wanted to be a mom. Even when we were children, she was always thinking about wedding ideas, nursery themes, baby names, etc. I was always more focused on books and having fun. I am now a flight attendant. I am also attempting to become a published author. My sister has not worked ever honestly. When we graduated high school, we went straight to college. She met his boyfriend in college and once she graduated, became a stay-at-home girlfriend until she became his wife. I have known for a while that my sister has been attempting to become pregnant, unsuccessfully. She has experienced a single miscarriage and has been unable to become pregnant again after thousands and thousands of dollars being spent on IVF, and pretty much anything they could do because she wanted to experience pregnancy. After 5 years of no success, they have started to discuss other options. My sister isn't interested in adoption and is very adamant in having a child that has both their DNA. Her words, not mine. About 3 weeks ago, she came to my house and we were hanging out as we usually do, just chatting and watching Modern Family. She told me she had a serious question and needed to ask me while she still had her nerves. It scared me, but she asked if I could be her surrogate. I was frozen for a second and asked what she meant. She told me that I know what a surrogate was. She needed me to be her surrogate. I expressed that she knew that I wasn't interested in having children. This could definitely be due to how we came into the world, but I'll be honest and say I have never found the thought of having children appealing in any way. I told her that I would have zero issue with donating my eggs to her, however many she needed. She could have them all, but I could not carry her child. Upon hearing that, she became so angry. Her face was so red, and she was just yelling about how it's obvious how jealous and hateful I am because this is a small task. I didn't want to bring it to her attention that she has always spoke about having more than 4 kids. Would the expectation be for me to do this every time? I don't know. I'm starting to feel so bad. She ended up telling me that if I couldn't do this one thing for her, how could I ever call myself her sister? She broke a picture of us I have sitting on my mantle and stormed out. Since then, she's only texted me pictures of her diaries from when we were kids and all of their vision boards saying that I am stopping her from creating a family for no reason and to think about the bigger picture. My boyfriend refuses to give me advice saying that it's my sister and he doesn't feel comfortable attempting to sway me in either direction because it's such a touchy subject. Honestly, this is the longest I've ever gone without communicating with my sister, and I am seriously on the verge of giving in. Most doctors would refuse to allow you to be a surrogate as you've not previously had children. She'll be hard-pressed to find one that would. Not to mention, she's asking her sister to sacrifice her body and potentially her life to fulfill her dream. That's not fair at all. If she can afford IVF, she can afford a surrogate, not the a-hole. I'd also add that her losing her temper in this way screams she's not stable enough to enter this sort of relationship with, not the a-hole. I'm a dude, so can only compare it to donating a kidney. I might donate a kidney to one of my siblings, but if they demand it, disown me. Break pictures if I don't jump at the chance. That's no longer abuse. That's insanity. Sorry, her sister is insane. Or she's worried her husband will leave her or make her go to work. She's a stay-at-home mother who can't have children. She's thinking, how dare sis refuse the obvious solution to my problems? I do think her husband is applying a lot of pressure. When she made the same DNA comment during a football game, her husband gave me this look. I don't know how to even properly explain it, but it was like he was expecting me to offer. Ew. Edit. I am reading all the comments and I want to say thank you so much. I feel so much better knowing I'm not the villain, but I would be lying if I said I am not leaning towards just doing it. This disconnect with my sister brings me immense discomfort in ways I cannot verbally express, but I see 2 frequent questions I want to answer to hopefully get different answers. 1. Money. My mother did not die of natural causes. It was provider error. My father sued a hospital, and my sister and I have sizable trusts with that money. So money is not an issue to either of us, and her husband is financially well off as well. So not working for 9 months or paying for the egg retrieval process, etc., isn't an issue in any way. It's more so her stubbornness for the baby to share our DNA and for one of us to be carrying it. 2. Since we're identical, if she can't have a baby, how can I? Her lack of being able to have a child is due to a car accident we were in, which is also the source of the miscarriage she experienced. Due to her being in the front seat with our father, they took the brunt of the crash, unfortunately. Her body is now unable to carry a child, and she has had extreme complications with egg retrieval. I'm not sure about the details of how that has gone wrong, just that it is not working and not an option. It is hard to get her to discuss non-viable options so I can gain a better understanding. 3. Doctors will not allow me to be a surrogate due to me not having a child. Thank you so much for this information. We have family dinner this upcoming Thursday because we always watch football with our dads and significant others. I'm sure this topic will come up if she decides to attend. I'm hoping I can bring this up to her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for agreeing to divorce my wife when she joked about it? Yesterday, me and my wife were just chilling and watching TV. My wife all of a sudden said that she wants a divorce and started laughing hysterically. She was quite drunk. She drinks, I do not. I was shocked when she suddenly asked me for divorce. I have been with her for the past 6 years. All this time was spent together, she never ever asked me something so absurd. I got angry and said, sure, divorce that way, send me papers but make it fair. She stopped laughing and got sad. I am used to her sarcastic questions about it. I would do something like this or that for her, or absurdity like I would jump off the hill for her, etc., but I never saw this coming my way. But she this time got sad and angry and became serious and asked me, am I for real? I said, sure I am. You want to leave me? Then leave. I can't stop you. Or do you want me to physically stop you? She got very angry and started crying and said that I wouldn't even fight even a little to save our marriage and just agree to divorce without reacting. She asked me, have I stopped loving her? I told her I love her, but if you want to leave me, I won't stop you or beg you. My wife got very angry and slapped my chest and said, bad husband. I tried to stop her and ask her to talk to me, but she didn't listen to me. She's been ignoring me since yesterday. Today I went to talk to her and she said that I need to become a better man and husband and fight for my wife, instead of just agreeing to divorce like a heartless pig. And until I work on myself, she will not talk to me and she's been ignoring me. She gave me food, sat next to me, but whenever I try to talk to her, she doesn't reply. I was thinking of apologizing, but I also thought I don't need to apologize because I didn't do anything wrong. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. You need to be a better wife and not make a joke out of ending our marriage. Yes, she's the one who needs to work on herself. If you say stuff like that when you drink, maybe you don't need to drink. Not the a-hole. Your wife's joke crossed a line, and it's unfair for her to expect you to beg and plead for her to stay after a cruel and drunk comment. Marriage takes mutual effort and respect, and it seems like your wife needs to work on those things, instead of expecting you to constantly prove your love for her. Stand your ground and have a serious conversation about boundaries and communication in your relationship. Plus, let's be real. Who jokes about divorce while drunk? That's not funny or acceptable. It's valid that OP felt hurt and taken aback by her request for a divorce, especially considering their long history together. Not the a-hole. Exactly. He has every right to feel his way. She asked a hurtful question and then didn't like the answer she received. OP, she needs to grow the heck up. If she cannot control her drinking or her mouth, then perhaps y'all really are not compatible. You did nothing wrong. She literally fooled around and found out. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Not a-hole. Although she sounds horrible and manipulative, you should actually consider divorcing her for real. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom why none of her 5 boys have given her grandkids? I'm the youngest of 5 boys. When I was 13, my mom and biological dad split. My oldest brother went to stay with my aunt. The rest of us went to stay with my grandma while our parents tried to find happiness. Dad completely fell off the face of the earth after about 4-ish years. I think he talks to my oldest brother every so often. My mom got her own place a few miles away from my grandma. She visited often and even spent the night every now and then. So the twins only stayed for like a year, then went and joined the Navy. The brother between the twins and I stayed for 2 years, then met a girl, went to college, and they got married. Then there was me. 13 to 18, I lived with my grandma and was almost completely alone for 2 years out in the middle of nowhere. I love my grandma, but there was only so much an 80-year-old woman and a teenage boy could talk about. I felt abandoned. Fast forward, I finished high school and went to college. Did a whole shebang. We're all adults now doing our thing. Well, my mom is always like, why won't any of you give me grandchildren? First of all, I'm gay, but she even asks me if I'll find a nice man, settle down and adopt. But my other brothers are straight. None of them have or want kids. So the conversation got intense and she was being very dramatic. So I said it. I said what was on everyone's mind. Mom, I think none of us want kids because of how you and Dad left us with Grandma, because you both deserve to be happy. I'm glad you found your happiness, but I would never do such a thing to a child, especially if I had the means to take care of them. It scares me that I could possibly wake up one day and think differently. That I could wake up, tell my kids to pack their things. I'm taking you to Grandma's where you're going to live from now on, even though your father and I are perfectly capable of taking care of you. She cried. A lot. But I couldn't take the "where are my grandkids" conversation anymore. I could not listen to her bring that up one more time. I did feel terrible and we haven't talked in like 2 weeks. I'm not sure what to think. Not a-hole. The truth hurts most when we know we're wrong. There has to be a part of your mom who knows what she did was wrong, and I wouldn't be shocked if she saw grandchildren as her chance at a do-over. I wasn't there for my kids, but I can make up for it by being there for my grandkids, hence her pestering. Instead, she's now being told that her choices have consequences, and she won't get her do-over because of what she did. She didn't want to parent, so now she won't get to grandparent. I'd cry too if I'd been such a poor parent, be it due to negligence, abuse, or, as in your mom's case, my absence and refusal to be a parent caused my kids to be scared to or put off of having children of their own because they're worried that they would repeat my mistakes. There is no delicate way to put that because a truth like that will always hurt. Who wants to be confronted with the harm they've caused and the damage they've done? You were not wrong for telling her, not least because the only way to stop her pestering and questioning is to tell her why, and you put it as diplomatically as possible. The grandkids were gonna be her do-over. Listen, I had a similar issue. My parents raised me and my brother in brutal abject poverty, and also neglected both of us in brutal fashion. I always wondered why she ever bothered to have kids. She said we were both planned. In any case, I vowed I would never bring children into our extremely dysfunctional family setting. My brother and father died of an overdose on the same day. In 2019, before my mother passed away from COVID, I had to tell her the family name was dying with me because I had a vasectomy and would never procreate. She was extremely upset, but the truth hurts sometimes. Am I the a-hole if I tell my mom that my dad asked if I could be a surrogate for him and his new wife? My 26 female, dad 56 male, has been trying to have a child with his new wife 40 female for going on 2 years. They are attempting IVF but aren't having luck. They told me this in confidence and asked if I could keep the fact that they are trying for a baby to myself, which I have done. No problem. Recently, my dad called saying he had something he had been planning to ask me for a while. He asked if things with IVF don't work out, if I would be willing to be a possible surrogate with donor DNA for both of them. I was shocked, and to be honest, slightly disgusted by the idea. For some background, my father and I don't have the best relationship. My parents are divorced, and he was an alcoholic up until I went to college. We went 3 years without speaking to each other because of an argument. We only started speaking again 3 years ago. All of this makes the fact that he asked so shocking. When he asked, I gave an awkward chuckle, told him, I don't even know if I ever want to physically have a child myself. And if I do, I would probably use surrogacy myself if I could, you know? He was audibly disappointed when he responded with, No, I don't know. There was an awkward pause and I said, Yeah, well, sorry, but I love you. And we hung up. I I was so shocked I thought I had entered the twilight zone and started to feel nauseous. I was going to keep this to myself, but I don't think I can. I want to tell my mom, 60 female. We have a very close relationship and constantly tell each other everything. Even if this is the end of that conversation, the fact that my dad felt comfortable asking me is weirding me out. I'm slightly concerned she might attempt to off him. I would like her to put the fear of God into him so he never considers even thinking of me and surrogacy in the same sentence ever again. My dad is a selfish person. I know he didn't consider the ramifications of what being pregnant and having a child would have on me at all, even if I would not be involved with raising it. I know part of me why he asked is because he was hoping to save the money a surrogacy agency will cost. It's grossing me out that he had to have thought about me being pregnant. It's just grossing me out, and I'd like to talk to my mom about the situation. Am I the a-hole if I talked to her about this after they asked me to keep the fact they are trying to have a child a secret? It would obviously give away the fact that they are trying for a child and she would 100% yell at him, which would give away the fact that I told her. She wouldn't spread it to other people though, and I do feel like he crossed a line asking this question. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm usually the camp of don't spill secrets, but this is a huge ask. And if you need to confide in your mom, confide in her. It's something that majorly affects you. If it eases your mind, you wouldn't even qualify to be a surrogate. No legit fertility place will allow you to be impregnated, so his attempt to get around other fees would fail. Even the places with the loosest restrictions wouldn't accept a surrogate that has never carried at least one pregnancy to term. It's the most major of requirements. I am too when it comes to secrets, which is why I'm having a difficult time of it. But yeah, the fact that he even asked is majorly affecting me. That does ease my mind. I didn't know that at all. Clearly his time spent thinking about asking me was not spent wisely enough. Thank you for letting me know. Your dad would not have been approved to use you as a surrogate. That is how inappropriate his ask is. It is so inappropriate that I question whether he wants a child. He is sabotaging the process by choosing such an inappropriate path. It is so inappropriate that you must tell your mom or someone. Anyone, so that your loved ones can help you heal from the damage your father is doing to your ideal of love and relationships. This is horrifying. Not only is that request just creepy and, I don't even know, I truly can't find the right words. Abhorrent? You need to previously have carried a child to qualify to be a surrogate anyway. So he has clearly not thought this through or talked to a medical professional about surrogacy in general. And anyone negatively responding to the part where she wants to tell her mom, the heck? She was just requested to birth her own sibling. You think her mother wouldn't put obvious pieces together when the child would be given to her father? Jeez. Not stay home. I shuddered. Actually shuddered. You would not be the a-hole if you told your mom as it's about you, not them. Can you imagine telling people you're carrying your dad's baby? Right? How would I explain that to literally anybody? You couldn't explain it without hearing banjos playing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my former mother-in-law to leave my house? I married my late husband Benji in 2008 and we had a daughter together, now 12. In 2020, when she was 9, he unfortunately passed away. I remarried in 2021 and to be honest, I'm much happier. My marriage with Benji was actually very rocky, though of course his extended family and my daughter do not know this. We are of course still in touch with Benji's family, particularly my former mother-in-law. Ex-mother-in-law attended my wedding and professed to be happy, but she's always been a bit concerned about preserving her son's memory. For example, she made an impromptu speech at my wedding saying that this was what Benji would have wanted for me and my daughter. Benji was an only child, and my daughter is her only grandchild, so I do understand. And she's not really a bad person, just grieving in my opinion. After Benji's death, she wanted to share more of Benji with my daughter, and my daughter was happy to hear stories and see photos. I found it helpful for her to have that anchor and encouraged it. I myself was not that close to ex-mother-in-law even in Benji's lifetime, so we only spoke sporadically. But the further I've gotten into this relationship, the more strained things have become. Months ago, I invited ex-mother-in-law to stay with us for a few days. But in hindsight, her relationship with my daughter was already shifting, and it shifted much more in the interim. My daughter is definitely pulling away. I think it's a combination of settling in here, feeling increasingly distant from her old life, growing closer to her stepdad, and just becoming a teenager. I also think it's more about her evolving relationship with her father/grief than about ex-mother-in-law herself. Maybe she's also picked up on how much happier I am, but I sort of hope not. But ex-mother-in-law came to visit as planned. It's not gone well. She made a few subtle comments indicating she thinks I'm alienating my daughter from her biological paternal family. Which, to be fair, did move her across the country, and I do encourage her relationship with her new stepdad. But I'm also not trying to erase her dad. On the second day, my daughter said something to her grandmother like, "My parents said I could." She was using it more as a shorthand, but ex-mother-in-law snapped, "He's not your parent," and my daughter was embarrassed. I took her aside and called her out on thinking I was alienating my daughter, and reminded her she was my daughter, and also she was making her own choices. My ex-mother-in-law said my daughter was playing right into my hands, and then suggested that my significant other's closeness with my daughter was somehow suspicious. I flipped out and told her to leave my house. She stomped out, and I just know she's telling the rest of Benji's extended family how terrible and cruel I am. My daughter seemed ambivalent, but my husband thinks I was overly harsh and I should have understood that she was grieving. I feel like it's very hard for me to be unbiased, and I must admit that part of my reason for being upset at my former mother-in-law is because I want her to be happy here and have a good relationship with her stepdad. I mourn Benji too, don't get me wrong, but feel very differently about him to how my daughter feels. If it wasn't for her, I'd make very little effort to keep his memory alive or be in touch with his family at all. Not stay home. You have been very gracious about her need to keep her son's memory alive, but she's crossed a line by trying to prevent your newly blended family from moving forward, trying to prevent your daughter from seeing her stepdad as part of her family, trying to force your now pubescent daughter to stay 9 years old. She wasn't going to be interested in photo albums and repeated stories forever. And finally, suggesting, with no foundation, that your husband's affection for your daughter is somewhat unwholesome. You did the right thing. Yes, honestly, she crossed the line with that insinuation. I get that she's grieving, but that's just unacceptable. Not stay home. This is a pretty clear case of your ex-mother-in-law dismissing your parenting and disrespecting you. It's fine for her to disagree, but ultimately this is your child and not hers, and it sounds like she refused to accept that. Furthermore, the grief is her problem. You can and should be sensitive to a point, but enough is enough. Is enough. Not stay home. She was totally out of line. For me, the "he's not your parent" line was a full-on deal breaker. If I were in your shoes, I absolutely would have clearly and without room for misinterpretation explained to her that if she ever said anything like that to my daughter again, that would be the last time she ever saw her. Sounds to me like you reacted rather tamely and with more poise, and understanding that was necessary. Grief is not an excuse to be an absolute a-hole like your former mother-in-law was. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for asking my dad and stepmom what kind of sick joke they are trying to play on me?" My mom died, so now I am stuck at my dad's, and stepmoms that have siblings all the time. My one request was that they did not make me leave my hometown so that I can be by her grave. I had several relatives offer my dad to let me stay at theirs in my town, and then go to his town every other weekend like usual. That way, I could be close to mom, and commute to school would be shorter. He said no, and his wife, who has no parenting rights to me, decided she had a say, and they both forced me to go live there forever. I have been keeping myself busy with school, tennis, and friends to avoid being at my dad's, and to keep myself busy in order to not think about my mom all the time. I have no desire or want to be around their perfect family with no dead main characters, nor do I want to be around people who didn't love my mom or care that she's dead. It was her birthday Sunday, and I had plans to stay in bed, but my dad and stepmom decided to be disrespectful and try and celebrate her birthday with me, and tried to go to her grave with me. I was furious at them both, and asked them what kind of sick joke they were trying to play on me. I told my dad to stop acting like he gave the slightest crap about my mom when he divorced her. I asked my stepmom what rights she thinks she has to my mom, and asked if she wants to go piss on my mom's grave to show that she is a winner or something. My dad yelled at me because my stepmom cried, so I wanted to know if I was actually an a-hole or if it was my dad putting my last again. Edit: I'm going to ask my dad and stepmom a list of 30 questions I have made that my mom and her extended family and my friends know about me. If they can answer, I will be convinced that they do know me and do care about me, and then will believe that they didn't act in order to mock and spite my mom. If they can't answer, it's proof that they don't know me and then don't care about me. If they don't care and love me, how can they possibly respect my mother? If it's the former, I will try harder to work with them. If not, I'll look out for myself. Now for the comments. I kinda need some more information because it seems to me they are trying to support you in your grief and not meant to mock you. Then yeah, you might be an a-hole, albeit an understandable one. Maybe they want you to join their family and help you with the pain of your mom's loss. She has only been dead for 2 months. I already told them that they have nothing to do with my mom because it's not like they did when she was alive. So them doing this was completely against my wishes, and I was blindsided because they know this. You would probably benefit from grief counseling followed by family counseling when you are mentally and emotionally ready. I'm sorry for your loss, OP. This. I think currently no one is an a-hole, but this is a situation that requires individual therapy, communication, and mutual respect. OP needs to recognize that although they are messing up a lot, the dad and stepmom are trying to help and support OP in their grief. The dad and stepmom need to give OP a little space and let OP tell or show them what support they actually want. OP needs therapy to help them process their grief in a healthy way, since it feels like OP is lashing out at the dad and stepmom for having what OP wishes they still had. No a-holes here. You sound very young while they're just trying to be there for you. You are also hurting. Please consider therapy. While they are just trying to be there for you. Honestly, OP doesn't paint it like that at all. OP sounds like 15 to me, at which point they definitely should have been able to stay with relatives in their hometown and keep up the custody schedule. Remember, you are reading this from the OP's point of view. It's very clear that these adults are trying to support the grieving child and are making sure they provide a stable home while also giving him access to his mother's grave. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for going radio silent on my family after I was told I'm in the wrong for going off with my sister? So, I'm 27 female, I'm married 29 male, and in February, my sister 34 female dropped her 2 kids, 10 female and 6 male, to go on a last-minute out-of-state trip. When the 10-year-old was getting ready for her shower, she asked if I could check her hair. Confused, I asked why would I be doing that, but also told her yes, I'll check it. My niece tells me she had head lice and has had it for a while. I'm shocked, after not being told any of this. I check her hair and sure enough, there's not only eggs but moving head lice. I ask her what her mom had been using to get rid of it, and my niece says mayo and vinegar. I'm baffled, so I call my sister again. After I've already called about them not having clothes packed, they had random clothes packed in their suitcases. And she goes, "Oops, it must have slipped my mind." How does head lice slip your mind? Well, I went off on her, called her an irresponsible mother for not putting her kids first. So we haven't spoken much since February. Well, I've texted her a couple times trying to break the ice so things won't be so awkward. I love having my nieces and nephew over and spoiling them. Well, my oldest niece was over this weekend. She lives with my mom and dad, and I didn't have the gas to drive her home last night. My mom sent my sister's husband, who is an abusive POS, but that's a story for another time, to pick up my oldest niece, 12 female. My other niece came over, so excited to see us, and informed us that her and her brother are never allowed over to my house again. He begged me to talk to her mom about it. I called my mother and sister and finally asked what was going on. My mother said she wasn't pleased with how I handled things with my sister, and I was wrong for going off on her. My sister told me she is salty and done discussing her kids with me, and she hung up. I informed my mother I'm going radio silent and won't be speaking to any of them for a while because my feelings are valid. I might be the a-hole because I tried to tell my sister how irresponsible she was being with her kids. So, am I the a-hole? not stay home. I'd be furious. It's not just treating everyone's hair, it's boil washing the sheets, pillowcases, towels, etc., and continuing to check everyone's hair. I have very thick and curly hair, and it took me 2 months to get rid of them. I got it in high school. I had medium length, thick, straight hair, and it took the better part of 4 months to be completely rid of them. This was multiple treatments, washing the sheets, deep cleaning everything. They are nasty and tenacious. Those poor kids. Mom definitely isn't/wasn't doing enough, especially considering she was throwing live ones on a carpet. Male 28 here. If my sister dropped my niece off at my house and I made such a discovery, all hell would break loose. Oops, must have slipped my mind. Ah yes, because I was born yesterday and I believe in Santa and the Easter Bunny. Give me a break. Not stay home because you were nicer than I would have been by my own. I'm 30 female and I am with you 100%. When I was a kid, I kept getting head lice over and over one summer. I think my cousin must have been bringing it in. Not to be dramatic, but I've been traumatized. Like once when I was living with my in-laws, my niece had scabies and her mom was/is a POS as is, and didn't get it treated for a month. I even tried to put hydrocortisone on it because she was itching so badly and I had no idea what it actually was. My mother-in-law and father-in-law had it bad because she slept in the bed with them. I had let her use my brush once though, and I had it in my scalp. I had a freaking panic attack. But yeah, needless to say, I would have slapped off had I been OP, especially since I have a little girl myself with a very long hair. No OP, you're not a-hole at all. Your sister and mom are though.